Hello, I'm Simon Turner and this is Geek of the Week. Today I'm going to be talking about tuning, or more specifically mistuning. How we change the pitch of the notes that we usually play to make different colours, different notes, different sounds. Obviously, we need to know what we usually do. Cellos are usually tuned in fifths. And as Christine was so brilliantly describing last week when she was talking about harmonics, perfect fifths are based on the normal harmonic series that the string vibrates in. So that the interval between half the string and a third of the string is what we call a fifth, and that's what we tune to. We use our pegs for tuning, and if you look here, you can see that we have little adjusters on the bottom, which mean that we can fine tune much more easily. We tune to completely perfect fifths, which means that they're not actually completely in tune with, for example, a piano, which is tuned in a tempered intonation, so that all of the C's from the bottom to the top are the same. Ours wouldn't be. It'll be a little bit more complicated than that. But we like to think that at least these four strings are perfectly in tune, even if what we do with these in between definitely won't be. So at the beginning of the 20th century, composers started wanting to explore different sounds, different colours. And one of the ways that they liked to do this was pushing instruments a little bit. And for string instruments, they liked mistuning. The first example that I've really come across in symphonic repertoire is the Rite of Spring, which broke so many bands in so many different ways. In my job specifically, I have to tune a second cello. I have to tune my C string down, which I can do with the adjusters, which you can't see. And I have to tune it down to a B. And the reason for that is because he wants this very specific harmonic of an F sharp, which there's absolutely no way of playing normally. So I have to do that right in the middle of the piece while everybody else is playing. And once I've finished, then I have to muck around and tune back to a normal C and carry on playing. Even worse, the very last chord of the piece, he asks the whole of the cello section to tune their A string down to G sharp, which would sound just so we can play this chord, which obviously is aggressive and horrible, and I'm sure that's why he wanted it. You wouldn't be able to play those four notes without mistuning. But if you remember the end of the Rite of Spring, it finishes with these two little tiny flutes going right into the nothingness. And if the whole cello section was doing that, I don't think it would really keep the atmosphere, so we kind of ignore that. And we just cheat and play three notes each. There are other pieces, like The Pines of Rome by Ray Spighi, where he asks half of the cellos, again, to tune down to a B, and to use this amazing low, hollow sound. And the point of that is because he wants it to sound like the Roman legionnaires who are trudging on the Appian Way back into Rome. In solo music, it's often more about colour. In 1921, Kadai, who was a cellist himself, and also a collector of folk music, which I think is important, wrote his solo cello sonata, and what he wanted to do was bring a much more folky, rough, earthy element to the sound of the cello. So he tuned the G string down to F sharp and the C string down to B. So the whole, you've got, again, two fifths like we normally have, but they're wider apart, so it's much more edgy sound. And he can really use it to make lots of noise and lots of chords. Very vibrant, it's very exciting and energetic. When composers in Bach's time used scordatura, I think it was much more about making a wider variety of chords and notes possible. Obviously, for the Bach cello suites, most of the time it's a single line which is being written, but in this fifth suite, Bach really takes advantage of the fact that he's tuned the A string down to G to allow him to play chords and counterpoints that just wouldn't have been possible on the normal tuning. So I'll give you an example from the Courant, where there are two completely independent lines going consistently right the way through, where in some of the other suites he'd just have to imply it. He can really state the lines. So you get the melody and the bass line right the way through. But I think what I love about this suite, as much as all of the counterpoint, which is really spelt out, is the different colour that it allows Bach to use. And so this lower tension sound on the A string, what's now a G string, gives it a really beautiful mellow colour, which he takes full advantage of, for example, in the saraband. Now, all the other sarabands, he uses lots of chords. This one, he just allows the single notes and the beauty of the sound of this mistuned cello to really ring through. That's it for Geek of the Week from me. As usual, if you've got any questions about the odd things that we do as a normal part of our jobs, get in touch with the Hallé. Please tweet at Geek of the Week and we'll try and find somebody to answer your questions. Goodbye.